Hello, everyone. In this session, I'm going to discuss these topics that right now are on your screen. So I'm going to first discuss the problem of scarcity, that is the insufficiency of resources, and simply because of unlimited wants. Then we are going to discuss uh, choices and opportunity cost. We define economics and differentiate between macroeconomics and microeconomics, also positive and normative statement at the same time. Then we discuss the three fundamental questions and explain four different ways economies can be organized. I'll use the production possibilities model to illustrate choice, opportunity cost, efficiency, and unemployment. So by using this model, we will discuss or define uh, choices, opportunity cost, efficiency, and unemployment. And then we discuss we basically list the economic goals of society and explain why they are often difficult to achieve. We'll also discuss various policies to achieve these goals. So let's start with scarcity and choice. Resources, and these are different terms that we are going to use synonymously. So they are this exactly same thing. Whether you call it resources or factors of production or inputs, same thing. And these resources or factors of production or inputs are anything used to produce goods and services. So this is what we call resources. A country does not have enough resources to produce whatever it wants. You know why? Simply because of unlimited wants. That is human psychology. So we have all, even the Canada, one of the most richest countries in the world, United States, Switzerland, and other rich countries. These countries have also limited resources. And Canadian government doesn't want to spend money in all sectors at the same time. It is not possible. You have to make choices. And that is why the title of this slide says scarcity and choices. You have to make choices. Why you are making choices? Simply because of scarcity of resources. If you don't have any scarcity, you don't need to make choices. You just do whatever you want to do. So you spend in education, in health, in building roads and bridges. Also spend money on childcare. You can spend wherever you want, but that is not the case because we have limited funds. By we, I mean the whole country, and that is the serious problem. So, because we have limited resources, this is what we call scarcity. Uh, we must have some way to ration scarce resources, right? So we have to decide where we should use these scarce resources in which production. For example, should we spend more money on defense or should we spend more money on education? Should we spend more money on health or should we spend more money on K-12 education or provide uh, social services? So there are different choices. Now, if you know scarcity, and because of scarcity due to unlimited wants, you have to make choices. So because of scarce resources and unlimited wants, people must make choices. We have to make choices. Government will have to make choices. How these choices are made is the study of economics. So economics actually is a study of making choices more efficiently. That is what is the best allocation of scarce resources. Now, there are two major branches of economics. One is microeconomics, the other one is macro, because I gave you this example as well, that on individual basis, you have scarcity. So I have limited income and I have different expenditures. I have to make choices whether I should invest, buy a new car, or whether I should buy a new apartment, or whether should I save in my saving account. There are so many different choices I have with limited incomes. How we are going to make these choices, the study of economics. This is microeconomics, M-I-C-R-O. Micro, because I'm talking about one individual in the whole country. By macro, when we're talking about the whole country as one unit. So if we analyze the whole country as one unit, that is macroeconomics. So how, or any major component of the country, for example, how Alberta government will make different choices. And if we are analyzing a single market, just one individual market, that is called microeconomics. This course is macroeconomics, M-A-C-R-O. So this is a macroeconomics course. Now, what are the topics that we are going to discuss in macroeconomics? All topics related for the whole country, not for a specific market or sector. Market is the right word. Let me give you an example. It will be clear. These are the three examples: unemployment, inflation, interest rates. These are all macroeconomic topics. How do I know? Because when I say unemployment rate is, let's say, 5% in Canada, I'm not talking about any specific sector. Inflation rate is 3.3% in Canada. I'm not talking about any country. Interest rate for the whole country, Bank of Canada just sets the policy rate at 5%. That is macroeconomics. Another example is GDP, that is gross domestic product. That is total income of Canada, total income of the whole country, Canada. What are the topics of microeconomics? Supply and demand analysis. Supply and demand for what? For a specific product. So if I say supply and demand for apartments, like housing market, that is microeconomics. Cost of production of a specific product, that is microeconomics. Market structures, for example, automobiles industry is operating under oligopoly market structure. That is microeconomics. Why? Because automobile is not the only product that this country is producing. There's so many different products are being produced within Canada. So we are only considering only one specific product. That is micro. So the difference is one is at a small level, the other one is a broad view, that is for the whole country or even major sectors of the economy. It basically aggregates. Why not? Let's take more example. If I have, I guess, yeah. So these are some of the examples of micro and macro, right? So I just leave this as your homework. So you just read and see. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me. So I'm just giving you different examples, and you have to decide whether this type of analysis or this analysis will fall under microeconomics or macroeconomics. Is trade and investment from the United States the solution to Cuba's economic woes? It is back to the basics at the golden arches, and by golden arches I mean McDonald's. Return to office versus remote work versus a bit of both. Drought and the price of rice in Italy. Why now might be a great time to take that trip to Europe? So now most US citizens are you know, going to Europe. Merger in the air, Spirit Frontier and Spirit JetBlue. Will a shortage of popcorn spoil the movies? Oil is surging, Apple is falling. What higher interest rates mean for new home buyers? So the last example, don't get confused with new home buyers. The topic is related to interest rates. Remember this, right? So just do this your own as an exercise, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Then we have two types of statements. And in this course, most of the time, I will be discussing, sorry, I'll be discussing positive statements. So positive statements are facts that can be verified with empirical data. So this is positive statement. For example, if I tell you that inflation rate in Canada is 3.3%, for example, this is positive statement. Why? Because you can verify this statement using data. So just go to the Canada, Stat Canada website and you just check inflation rate. If it is 3.3, that's correct. If it is not, it's incorrect. So these types of statements are called positive statements. Normative statements are based on a person's beliefs or value system. These statements cannot be verified with data. So for example, if I tell you that, the inflation rate should be less than 1.5%, that is basically a normative statement, because this statement is based on my own analysis, on my own value judgment. I personally think that 1.5% inflation is is good for everyone. This is my own view. You can't, check this statement using any type of data. So this type of analysis is called normative analysis or normative statements. So we are not going to, discuss these types of statements in this course, because then it requires more debate, right? And this is a very basic course. So here I'm going to just give you more positive statements. For example, I'm going to discuss what is the inflation rate in Canada. How do we measure inflation rate? What are the effects of inflation, high inflation rate on different factors? How to calculate employment and unemployment rate? What are different types of unemployment rate? These types of topics we are going to, that are mostly positive in nature. Okay. Now I started this session by saying that resources are scarce, and I said at that time that we have different terms that we use for resources, such as factors of production and inputs, and we know that resources are limited. Okay, so we have limited resources. So these are four factors of production or four resources. Labor, that is human, mental, and physical effort. So there's a comma here. Land, any natural resource used to produce goods or services. Remember, so although I say land, right, but this is natural resources. Land does not mean a piece of land. Land is also a natural resource, but there are other natural resources as well. Oil, copper deposits. There's so many other natural resources, right? Gold, for example. Then we have capital, tools, equipment, factories, and buildings. So these are capital goods that are used in production process. And finally, enterprise, the human resource that innovates and takes risks. So the difference between enterprise and labor, these enterprise, that these workers, they innovate, they manage, they don't actually produce in the assembly line, but they manage things in order to increase the productivity of their workers. So this is the difference between enterprise and labor. So these are four factors of production. Remember, since land is used, because I call this labor as capital L, this capital as capital C, this enterprise as E. But I can't use land as capital L because we have already used capital L for labor. So we use land, the notation we use is N. N stands for natural resources. So by N, I mean land. Okay. So these are the economic resources and their earnings. So we have different terms used uh, for their earnings. For example, labor, these workers, their earning is called uh, wage rate or wage. So wages are the earnings of these workers. Land, rent. Capital, interest. And enterprise, profit, not wages. Okay. So make sure you know all these earnings of all these resources, because I'm going to give you practice questions where you will be asked to determine these earnings for all these four different resources. Then we have two different types of goods. One is called consumer good, and the other one is capital good. Consumer goods and services are used by consumers to satisfy their wants and needs. So, for example, consumer goods are those goods that you consume. Simple. You are not going to produce further from that using that product. So if you are using, for example, a chair is a consumer good because you're using that chair. But yes, if you use that chair for further production of other goods and services, then that product would become a capital good. Capital goods such as factories, tools, and equipment are used to make other goods for sale. Making more capital goods increases growth, but there is an opportunity cost in consumer goods. That is an important statement. So, for example, if a country is using its scarce resources producing capital goods, for example, a tractor, other factories, equipments, machineries, then this activity will increase growth. And you know, growth means percentage increase in uh, production or GDP. I haven't discussed GDP, so I don't want to keep using this term GDP. But growth means increase in income. Let me put it this way. But when you produce more capital goods, you have to give up consumer goods. You can't produce. As I said earlier, we have scarce resources. We don't have enough resources. Either we can produce capital goods or we can produce consumer goods. So if we produce capital goods, yes, in the long run, we will be able to produce more goods as well in the long run. But at that moment, when we are producing more capital goods, we are giving up consumer goods. So we do have higher growth, but there's an opportunity cost in consumer goods. That is, you will be producing less consumer goods. Okay. So, for example, let me just give you one example. Let's say if I make a cake, right? So I am now baking a cake. Cake is a consumer good. Okay, because you buy cake and eat, so that is a consumer good. We use, let's say, we use to produce this cake. We need an oven, and let's say the ingredient of this cake, let's say sugar, for example. Okay, so I'm sorry, it's difficult to write on the screen. Just give me a second. Let me fix one thing. Just give me a second, right? Hold on a second. Okay, let me erase this first and then I will rewrite. Okay, just give me a sec. Clear. Okay. So suppose I am making a cake, and for this cake I need, let's say, for example, all ingredients, but I'm just taking one ingredient here. Let's say sugar, and I need oven. So I need oven and sugar. Now this oven can be considered, if I'm not using that cake in my home, but if I am just selling cakes, right? So this oven is considered as capital good because I am using this oven to produce this product, that is cake. Although I use sugar as well to produce this cake, but I don't call sugar as a capital good. I call sugar as an intermediate good. Right? So what is the difference between intermediate goods and capital goods? Actually, intermediate goods are also helping you produce this product cake, but it is consumed in the production process. It's gone. You can't have sugar once you use this sugar in the production of cake. But our one is still there, like tractor. Tractor is a capital good because when you use in the agriculture sector, you're producing wheat or rice or whatever, but your tractor is still there. But fertilizer is the ingredient because you have used that fertilizer in the production process. So this is a difference between intermediate goods and capital goods. Okay. Now we have two types of efficiency. One is called productive efficiency, and the second one is called allocative efficiency. So the definition of productive efficiency is simple. By productive efficiency, I mean if a firm is producing a product at its minimum average total cost. That is the requirement. That is production at minimum ATC. Then we say that this firm is productively efficient. This is the meaning of productive efficiency. So for suppose if the lowest cost is $5, suppose if the average lowest cost is $5, and I am producing this product and my average total cost, the lowest cost is $6, it means I'm not productively efficient. I'm not efficient. I am, misusing resources or not using at the optimal level, and that is why my cost is slightly higher than the minimum average cost. This is the meaning of productive efficiency. Allocative efficiency when price is equal to marginal cost. Now, what is marginal cost? I don't know, how many of you have already taken microeconomics course. Marginal cost is the additional cost of producing one extra unit. That is the meaning of marginal cost. So suppose if I am producing product X, and suppose if I produce one additional unit, my cost is $5. And for this additional unit, suppose consumer are willing to pay only $4. So I am not allocative efficient. I am misallocating resources actually. The resource that is used, or the resources that are used in the production of this one additional unit of X, is should not be used in this sector. Why? Because the resources of producing used to produce one additional unit of X is the cost of these resources $5. Consumers are willing to pay for this product, for this unit, is only $4. So there's a loss of $1 to the society, and therefore these resources should not be used in this additional unit of this product. Don't worry if you don't understand, because I'm going to explain this allocative efficiency in a moment in more detail, and you will understand. Okay, don't worry. But what you need to know is, just remember this, that productive efficiency when production is at minimum average total cost, allocative efficiency when price is equal to marginal cost. But I will discuss this allocative efficiency in a moment. Just wait. Now, these are the three fundamental questions. What to produce? That is the decision that government should make. That is, whether we should produce more capital goods or we should produce more consumer goods. How to produce? We have different technologies. Should we use capital intensive technology, or should we use labor intensive technology? If you have abundance of workers, labor, use labor intensive technology. If you have abundance of capital, use capital intensive technology. And for whom? That is, these goods and services that are being produced in the country, who are going to use them? So what is the distribution mechanism? So one distribution mechanism is market. That is, let the market decide. So for example, if the price of sofa is $1,000, if you have $1,000, you can use that product. So that is the distribution mechanism, that whoever afford to buy that product can buy. Sometimes government also provides these goods and services. There are 4 types of economic system, and nowadays, these are the most important one. These one is what we call traditional economic system. That is basic barter system. So there's no money involved. People are just exchanging goods and services among themselves, right? And you can still find this system in the remote areas or rural areas of Bhutan and Haiti. The other system is command economic system. This is what we call socialism. So basically, all resources are controlled by the government, and government will decide, make a decision. So private enterprises are not allowed to produce. For example, North Korea, Cuba, and the former Soviet Union. Remember, these are the examples that I'm giving you, but I'm not saying that 100% they are 100% socialist, right? For example, okay, we'll discuss later. The third one is market economic system. That is capitalism or laissez-faire. By laissez-faire, I mean allowed to do. Private sectors can flourish. So there's a minimal government intervention. For example, Hong Kong and Australia. Some people argue that US should also be included in market economic system. So again, that I said earlier, this is not 100% categorization, right? So there's a subtle difference. So the line is blurry, and I can't just say that this country is mixed and this country is market. It's very difficult to judge, because if you compare, then it is possible. Mixed system, the fourth one, is where the role of government is also very important. So in market economies, for example, Canada is a mixed economy. Why? Because the role of government is huge. K-12 education is in the public sector. Healthcare is in the public sector. So two big sectors, right? In some other countries, healthcare is not, you have private doctors there as well. And Japan as well. Okay. Most Scandinavian countries are also fall under mixed system. But again, it's debatable. Now, this is production possibilities model. Okay. So this is a model. By model, I mean that I simplify things by making assumptions and explain one specific topic. So I cannot explain everything using this model, but there are a few things that can be explained using this model. Okay. So production possibilities model. So we have again different terms: production possibilities model, production possibilities curve, production possibilities frontier. Same thing. What is this model? So this model is a graphical representation of the various combinations of maximum output that can be produced from the available resources and technology. And I have made this word bold: the maximum output that can be produced from the available resources and also technology. The assumptions of this model are full employment. So we are assuming that there's no unemployment in the country. And if there's unemployment, I'll show you where you can, show that information in the model. Use of the best available technology. So you are using best technology. Productive efficiency. Remember that all producers, farms, are producing at their minimum average total cost. So they are not inefficient. They're all efficient. If they're inefficient, if they're productively inefficient, I'll show you that scenario as well. Okay. So now if I just give me a second. Okay, hold on. So just give me a second. I will show you one thing and then I'll discuss further. Okay. So that is not opening up, but I think it's in the next slide, so that's fine. So this is the production possibilities curve. This is a typical curve. Now you can see I have taken only two products. One, the quantity of butter, and the other, quantity of guns. You could have taken more than two products even using this two-dimensional diagram. So you could have taken on the horizontal axis all consumer goods. That is the value of all consumer goods in dollar terms. And you can also take all capital goods on the vertical axis. That is also possible. But we are taking two specific products. And now we are going to explain this model. This green line shows the maximum level of output, the combination, different combinations of what? Of butter and guns that this country can produce using its factors of production. That is 4 factors of production or resources, right? So this point, let me mark this and I'll erase as well. So this point B is efficient point. This is efficient. Efficient means productive efficient. This is productive efficient. So these are all efficient points. By efficient points, I mean these are all good points. That is, country can either produce B, can produce C, and can produce D, or any other point on this line. This line, that is why I'm saying that this line is the production possibilities. So you have different possibilities. You have different options. You have to make choices. So you have to pick one production point, either B, C, D, or any point between C and D, or any point between B and C, or even at this point on the vertical axis, or at this point. This is also possible, and these are all efficient points. Why you are making choices? Because of scarcity. You have scarce resources. You can't produce 400 guns and 3,000 butter. It's not possible because you don't have enough resources. Either you can maximum produce 400 guns or maximum 3,000 butter, or you can just find another combination. For example, not 400, slightly more than 400. I'm sorry. So you have one option, that is option B. So you can produce 400 guns and 1,000 butter. That is possible, but you cannot produce 400 guns and 2,000 butter. It's not possible. It's not possible. Why? Because of scarce resources. So first, a production possibilities curve shows different combinations. A production possibilities curve shows different combinations of these two products, butter and guns, that this country can produce efficiently. That is number one. Number two, as I said earlier, that you have to make choices. That is, if you want to produce more butter, you have to give up guns. This giving up of this product guns, we have a specific name, and that is called opportunity cost. So opportunity cost means if you produce additional butter, you have to reduce the production of guns. And how many guns you are going to reduce is nothing but the cost of producing butter. So I am calculating the cost of producing butter not in terms of dollars, but in terms of resources that could have produced guns. So in terms of guns, basically. So let's take these three questions. If, just give me a second, let me fix the font size of my pen. Yeah. Now see, if society produces 1,000 units of butter, that is this. So if society or country produces 1,000 units of butter, how many guns can it produce? The maximum guns that can be produced would be 400. Why? Because 1,000 and at point B, this is the maximum that this country can produce, 400. So 400 units of guns can be produced. Number one. Let me erase this marking and read number two or B. If society is at B on the PPC, so right now, suppose you are here at B. What is the cost? And by cost, I mean opportunity cost. Why? Because there are no dollars. You can also express opportunity cost in terms of dollars as well. But here we are talking about opportunity cost. So what is the opportunity cost? Let me write here. What is the opportunity cost of 1,000 more units of butter? So if I increase the production of butter from 1,000 to 2,000, if I increase the production of butter from 1,000 to 2,000, it is only possible if I decrease the production of guns. Otherwise, it's not possible. So basically, if I am at 2,000, the maximum I can produce is 300. So what is the loss? 100. That is 400 minus 300, 100. So 100 is the opportunity cost of producing 1,000 additional units of butter. So that is called opportunity cost. That is 100 units of guns. Let me erase this once again, and then see, is opportunity cost greater for move from C to D compared to a move from B to C? So I have already calculated the opportunity costs uh, from moving from B to C. I've already calculated this is 100 guns. You can see this 100 guns. If I move from C to D, same 1000 units of butter, but this time I'm giving up this many guns, which is 300 minus 150. So that is 150. So see, this is 150, this is 100. Notice what is happening here. As you keep producing more butter, you will have to give up guns. And every time you have to give up more, slightly more and more and more. So basically what I'm saying, that opportunity cost is increasing as we move from point B to point C to point D in this direction. As we move in this direction, you can see opportunity cost is increasing. Okay, let me erase this. So what I'm trying to show you, if you look at the production possibility curve, it is basically board outward. By board outward, I mean it has this specific shape. This shape simply tells you, and you can see even in the diagram, if I show, if I, you can see here, let me show you here. Notice that at point B, the slope of this line is pretty flatter. Point B is on the flatter portion of the production possibility curve, whereas point B is more steeper. See, it's more steeper. It has a higher slope. So notice as we move from B to C in this direction, the slope of the curve is increasing. So it started from the very flatter portion and it started becoming steeper, steeper, and steeper. So slope is increasing of this curve. That's why we call it board outward. By board outward, I mean like this. This is board outward curve. So slope is increasing, and you'll be surprised to know that slope is nothing but opportunity cost. Change in this divided by change in this, basically. So this is opportunity cost. So first 100, then 150. So it's increasing. So slope is increasing. That is why you have this curve. So this is what we call increasing opportunity cost. So production possibility frontier shows increasing opportunity cost. Okay. Now, using the same curve, I'm going to discuss two more what I call two more topics. So let me quickly recapitulate what I just said. All these points B, C, D are efficient points. This PPC has a board outward shape, which means that this curve shows increasing opportunity cost. That is, as you keep producing more butter, you have to give up more and more guns. Why we have increasing opportunity cost? The reason we have increasing opportunity cost, why, you can see here, when I increase the production of butter from 1000 to 2000, I gave up only 100 guns. But when I increase another 1000, then I gave up 150 guns. Why this is so? Why it's increasing? This is increasing because factors of production or resources are not 100% substitutable. You cannot use milk in the production of guns, or you cannot use some equipment that are used to produce these guns in the production of butter. So when you take initially, when you are in this range, some of the items are not relevant to the production of guns that you can easily take and in the production of butter and increase the butter without decreasing guns a lot. But as you keep producing more and more butter, then you are actually taking resources that are really suitable for the production of guns. So the production of guns will decrease a lot because you are taking relevant resources from that sector. So uh, because the factors of production are not 100% substitutes in these two sectors. If you understand this, I will just give you last example on this topic, that is increasing opportunity cost. So let me draw a production possibility curve where the factors of production are 100% substitutable or perfect substitutes, like this. See this. So I'm sorry I'm drawing here because I don't have a space, but just give me a sec. Let me. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. So see this. So I take here as W means white, B means bread, white bread, and here I am taking brown bread. Now, if you notice that factors of production required to produce white bread and brown bread are identical, basically. And therefore, they are suitable equally in both production, white bread and brown bread. So I'll have to draw a production possibility curve in such a way that the slope, because I told you opportunity cost nothing but the slope, that slope is constant. Slope is not increasing. So any curve that has a constant slope is a straight line. So I draw a straight line. So this is a production possibility curve. It's a straight line. If it is straight line, it means that factors of production in the two sectors are perfectly substitutes, and therefore the opportunity cost is not increasing or decreasing. I'm not saying it's 1 to 1, can be any ratio, but that is constant. For example, it is possible that every time when you produce one white bread, you have to give up 2 brown bread. That is possible, or 1 brown bread or half brown bread, whatever be the ratio, but it's fixed, it's constant. That every time when you increase one production of one bread, you have to give up 2 brown bread, one bread, 2 bread, one bread, 2 brown bread, like this. Okay. Now the other two topics or points that I want to mention here. Number one, let me take this point, suppose, which is not mentioned in this diagram. Suppose if I take this point and call it E. This point E is feasible. By feasible, I mean this country can easily produce 1,000 butter and 150 guns. No issue. But there's a problem. The problem is it is not efficient. It is not productively efficient. That is why you are well below the production possibility curve. You are well below that green line. So either you are inefficient, that is, see this, if you remember, these are the assumptions. Remember, these are 3 assumptions. So first, either we don't have efficiency, then you are inside the production possibility frontier, or there are some unemployment in the country. So if there are some unemployment in the country, that is, some resources are unemployed, you are not using them simply, and that is why you are at point E, because of unemployment, not because of inefficiency. You are efficient, you are producing at the minimum cost, but you are not using all your factors of production, all resources, and that is why you are inside the production possibilities frontier, or you are using old technology that is not productive, and that is another reason. So if you violate that assumption, you are not going to be on this line, you will below this line. And if I take this point that is above the production possibility frontier, let's call it point F, that point F is what we call unattainable. By unattainable, I mean that given the country's resources, this country cannot produce at point F. This is not possible, unattainable. Yes, in the long run, it is possible that if you have more workers, suppose now we have more foreign workers who are coming to Canada, maybe other students who are international students who are coming and also working. So we have more workers. If we have, if we find new natural resources, if we have new technology, innovation, then it is possible that the country will shift its production possibility frontier like this. So if the curve shifts to the right, then yes, see, this point F is possibility frontier like this. So if the curve shifts to the right, then yes, see, this point F is now on the PPF or PPC curve, and that is feasible and efficient as well. So it is possible, but in the long run. So if the curve shifts in this direction rightward, this is what we call economic growth. So growth is taking place. Why? Because the curve is moving to the right. And we'll discuss later. So this is growth rate. So certain percentage. For example, if I say that the country is growing at 3%, that is every year this curve shifts by 3% to the right, not to the left. Yeah, if you have war, then it might shift to the left as well. Okay. The last topic in the same diagram is this. Suppose if the citizens of this country want government to produce more butter here, to produce more butter and less guns, because they think that we don't want to involve in any type of war. So just provide consumer goods, that is better, and don't produce, spend more on defense. This is what consumers or citizens of that country want. And suppose if government is producing here, B, the government is spending more money on guns and less on butter. This is called, remember I said I would discuss later, this is called allocative inefficiency. This is allocative inefficiency because consumers want this point, production is taking place this. So this is a mismatch. This is the mismatch. The resources are utilized inefficiently. We don't give value to these additional 250 guns. We don't give any value, but government is producing this. And we value this product more where you are not producing this. So if this type of mismatch is called allocation, there's a problem with allocation. The government is allocating, or producers are allocating resources more in the production of guns, whereas consumers want more butter. They don't give value to this product. Okay, so that is allocative inefficiency if this is the case. And if consumer want point D and production is also at point D, that is best point. Okay. Now, I've already discussed this purchasing, not purchasing, we'll discuss purchasing power as well. Production possibilities curve and economic growth. You can see growth means the economy is able to produce more of everything. Okay, so more of everything means so this is actually it says production of cars and production, and this is from the publisher. So this is a typo, I believe. This should be wheat. Okay, yeah, this should be. Let me oh, sorry, what I'm doing. Hold on. Let me double check. Yeah, this should be wheat. Anyways, it doesn't make any difference. So if the curve is shifting to the right, this is economic growth, and you can see the capacity of this country is increasing. So the maximum capacity to produce cars earlier, before economic growth, was 150. Now it is 180 after growth. So that is called growth. Let me give you an example using the same diagram so that you understand what is the meaning of economic growth. So for example, if I tell you that this country is here at this point and moving in this direction. So now you can see if you move, let's mark this point. Suppose this is point A, this is point B. So if you move from point A to point B, you can see the production of cars is increasing, the production of wheat is also increasing, but this is not growth. Excuse me. Growth means when your capacity to produce increases. So your capacity is already here. This is your capacity. And you are inside your capacity. So you are not growing. You are just using all your resources. Simple. Suppose at this point you have 15% unemployment rate. So if you use all these unemployed resources, you will be here. That is not growth. You simply use your unemployed resources. Growth is if you move beyond that line. So if you are suppose inside this line here, let's say C, and you move to somewhere here, D. Now this point D is above this line. This is called growth. Growth means when you actually cross that purchasing production possibilities curve. This is called growth. And in this diagram, it is pretty biased growth, unbiased growth. Sorry. Why unbiased growth? Because or balanced growth. Let me put this way. Don't use the word bias or unbiased. So this is pretty balanced growth. Balanced growth means that growth is taking place in both sectors. You can see the production of cars, the capacity to produce car is increasing, capacity to produce wheat is also increasing. But sometimes you have unbalanced growth. By unbalanced growth, I mean this. So this is unbalanced growth. Unbalanced growth means your capacity to produce the product that is on the vertical axis hasn't changed at all, but now you are producing more of product that is on the horizontal axis. It does not mean that you are not producing more of this as well. Capacity hasn't changed, but suppose if you are at point A and if you move to point C, you can see the production of both this variable and this variable is increasing. So this is unbalanced growth. Okay. So that's all as far as production possibilities curve is concerned. And I will, give you questions on this topic as well, just for your own practice. Now, these are macroeconomic goals that the government of any country wants to achieve. So let me write all these 7 goals and then I'll give you some data that is given in your textbook, which is 2 to 3 years old, 2019 data, sometimes 2018 data as well. But it will serve the purpose basically. Number 1, improved standard of living, that is high GDP per capita. I just showed you how to calculate GDP per capita. Okay. So GDP, by GDP per capita, I mean simply GDP divided by population. This is GDP per capita. So achieve high GDP per capita. Economic growth, high GDP growth, that is percentage increase in GDP. Full employment, that is another goal. Stable prices, lower inflation. Viable balance of international trade. So we have to have a trade balance, not trade deficit. Equitable distribution of income as well. And manageable government debt and deficits. So deficits is basically the difference between revenues minus expenses, and debt is the addition or summation of all deficits and then subtract or surpluses. So this is the overall one number, right? We normally represent debt as a percentage of GDP. So let's see some data. I don't know what to explain, but I'll just go through these slides. here, which is already uploaded on your course website. So goal number one, if you don't remember, just go back to the slide and see what is goal one. Improve standard of living, which is written here as well. So see, this data is uh, decade by decade. The rise in Canada's average real income. So in this decade, 2010, it is around $53,000. And I'm assuming that this is Canadian dollars. So the GDP per capita has been increasing since 1930s. Okay, and the sources are given here as well. So don't worry, we will discuss GDP in detail as well. Improve standard of living. Of the G7 countries, the world's biggest and most economically advanced nations, Canada is third, behind the United States and Germany, and has an average income over 4 times the world average. Notice that this data is, if you read this, it says income in US dollar now, because in US, so that we can compare, right? So all numbers are in US dollar. For Switzerland, it is $85,000. Canada, 46,000. Germany, 48,000. US, $65,000. And this is 2019 data. The world ranking is also given, and G7 ranking is also given. So G7 ranking, Canada has, third rank. Yeah, so yes, so Canada is third, yes, and then on the world ranking it's 21, because there are high income countries in Middle East as well. For example, Qatar. Okay, let's go to the next. This is goal number 2, economic growth, and so this is the growth of Canada's average real income. That's this, graph simply shows you that if you grow 1% higher, it makes hell amount of difference, right? Or if you are growing 1% lower. So you see, if your actual growth is 2.2, suppose, then if you grow at 1.1, then your 2018 real income would be 31,000 instead of 55,000. And if you just grow by 1% more than 2.2, that is 3.2%, your real income would be $134,000. So this gives you the comparison. So economic growth. Note that developed nations seldom have annual growth rates above 4%. So if you look at this data, 2019, for China, the growth rate is 6.1%, USA 2.3, Canada 1.7, France 1.5, Japan 0.7, and that is quite logical because growth rate does not tell you the absolute number. So for example, if I am earning $100, suppose, and if I now start earning $200, which is much easier to double my income, that is 100% growth. But if I'm already earning $100,000, it's difficult to reach $200,000. Are you getting my point? So developed countries, they already have very high GDP per capita or GDP. And the growth, even in 1% growth, is in millions of dollars. Whereas countries with a low per capita GDP, if their income increases by the same, even less than that amount, that in percentages, that would be very high. So if you can just Google and see the GDP per capita of China and then compare with Canada, you'll see the difference. Okay, so that is the reason. And this is what we call convergence hypothesis, that some economists believe that these developed nations, since they are growing at a faster rate compared to developed countries, so eventually they will catch up. And the new convergence theory actually suggests that that is not, we haven't seen this happening, simply because developed countries every year or every 2 years, they have new technology, they have new inventions, and they keep growing at that rate. So there's no stagnation in their growth rates, despite very high per capita income. Now, goal number 3, employment. In 2019, I think this is before COVID, I believe, or just the beginning of the COVID, and Canada was 5th among the G7 countries and 77th in the world. So unemployment rate is given here. Canada 5.7% unemployment rate. Stable prices. By stable prices, I mean inflation. So some countries have deflation, like Burkina Faso. Japan 0.5% only. Germany, UK, West Canada 1.9%, but that was in 2019. Right now it's around 3.3%, if I'm not wrong. You can check on. Just give me a second. www.statcan.gc.ca. I'll go and quickly tell you in less than a minute. Yes, consumer price index 12-month change 3.3% is inflation, and unemployment rate currently is 5.5%. So 1.9% inflation. So for many countries, especially the industrialized ones, the possibility of deflation is as likely as that of inflation. Okay, that's fine. And Venezuela, yes, is 254.9%. So Venezuela 254.9% inflation 2019. You can also check the current inflation rate in Venezuela. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Viable balance of international trade. That is basically trade deficit or trade surplus. But remember, trade deficit is not something really bad if you're importing capital goods in order to produce more. So there's no harm in it, basically. But it should be manageable. And so look at this. After 2010, you can see Canada's imports is more than exports. We have trade surplus after 2000 till 2009, I believe. Okay. This is equitable distribution of income. So this is the distribution of income. The highest quantile, 40%. The lowest, only 6%. But that is this is important data. Although this is for 2018, Canada's performance is quite good at 6.2 this ratio, but is distinctly average in world rankings, coming in 47th. However, since the world average is 7.7, Canada's income distribution is more equitable than in most countries. So if you look at this data, the data is top 20% versus bottom 20%, right? So 3.4 means the top 20% are earning 3.4 times more than the bottom 20%. So France 4.9, Germany, Japan 5, UK 5.9, Canada 6.2, and the average is 7.7 times. So Italy 7, and look at Namibia 22.8 times more. An average of 107 countries is 7.7. This is average. Canada's rank in G7 number 5, and in the world 47th. Okay. So this is just the data I'm just showing you. Manageable government debt and deficit. So Canada has outperformed most countries in managing its deficit. So this is surplus deficit as a percentage of GDP. So we have minus, that is deficit, 0.3% of GDP. But this is 2019 data. GDP, the rank is third. Now, how I'm going to achieve all these, how I am going to, by I mean the country, right? The government is going to achieve these goals. These are three policies. Number one, fiscal policies. That is taxing and government spending. That is related to your budget, basically. Monetary policy. That is interest rate and the money supply. And you know, Bank of Canada is controlling rate of interest, and that is basically a part of a monetary policy. And direct control, tariffs, minimum wages, and other regulations. So we'll discuss all these policies later. So that's all as far as uh, this session is concerned. Thank you so much. Make sure you know all these topics. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.